Next speaker is Samuel Barros, who was a student of mine for how many years? A couple of years, 2 years, and then worked in the program as well for 2 more years, so 4 total years. Samuel is one of those amazing individuals that never seems to be doing any work and gets a huge amount of stuff done. So it's really remarkable. It's really pretty impressive, and it's always done well. It's always done correctly. He just doesn't. What's Samuel doing? Oh, it's already done. And of course, it would be. He'd anticipate. He'd have things ready to go, and it was really good. And he was part of a major part of our South American contingent for that generation. Remember, almost all the viticulturists of Chile who taught Samuel spent time at UC Davis. And in the program, and they went through all sorts of different areas of horticulture, viticulture included as well, and they're called the UC Davis boys. In fact, in South America, for that matter, they have a huge influence. We sort of lost that over the last 10, 15, 20 years, but it's going to build again, I think, as there's greater efforts to fund and encourage joint interactions there. And again, these are really valuable, not just because of the scientific component, it's because of the cultural component too, and really having an opportunity to have a broader range of personalities and backgrounds as well. So with that, Samuel will come up and give his talk. He is also married to Cecilia Pepe, who is not here, and who is just as remarkable, a bit more frantic than Samuel, bit higher energy, which is a good thing too. And Samuel is also the owner of almost a full soccer team in Chile. So it's a basketball team. So 5 kids, that'll keep you busy all the time. Okay, Samuel, come insulted you enough. Come up.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So some of you know Cecilia, my wife, and she really wanted to come, but somebody had to stay with the kids. So thank you, Cecilia, for that. And I promise I'll bring some chocolate pie. My talk is called Snapshots from Chile. Andy comes to Chile very often, and he also, like he said, there's been many students from Chile who have been in Andy's classes. So there's a couple of videos from them because they couldn't come, okay? So I hope the videos play. I met Andy in 96. I came as an exchange student at the time, and coming from Chile, I didn't know anything, and still we haven't seen any phylloxera in Chile. So I came to his office and I said, I want to work in phylloxera. And he said, sure, no problem. And he took me to Jeffrey's lab and put me to work in a root bioassay trial for free, of course. And then I met phylloxera. So that was great. So back in the 20th century, before coming to Davis, we brought Andy and Deborah down to Chile for a seminar that we prepared at the university on plant material, propagating material, and viruses and stuff like that. And so that was in, I believe it's August 2000. Yeah, August 2000. So before it came. So there, some of you may recognize that tall Frenchman looking at Andy, and Andy is discussing with Carbonneau the relationship between the VSP and the distance between the vines and things like that. And that's in Chile. At that time, we introduced Andy to pisco sours. And I think that's one of the main reasons he keeps coming back to Chile. Hans also knows pisco sours, and Jeff, and many of you know pisco sour. Okay, so on the picture on my left is Alonso Perez, who is a professor at the university there, and he sent one of the videos. So let's see if it works.
Hi, Andy. I'm happy to send you this short message to congratulate you and to celebrate your many professional achievements, your career achievements. But I would like to highlight your dedication as a mentor for grad and undergrad students and young professionals, and also your love and passion for practical viticulture, especially for teaching practical viticulture. But you set a great example that I still follow. So for all of this, I'm really grateful. I'm happy to have met you many years ago, and I hope to see you soon in California or in Chile again. So bye now, and congratulations.
Good, it worked. So, so I came to Davis in 2000, and back in '96, Peter Cousins was my TA, and Liz, she was the other TA, and in 2000 it was Hans and Remy. And in 2001, I was the TA, and I was the best. Okay, and so that's me in 2001. And at that time, when we were discussing what to do research on, Andy said, let's do it on margarotes. And for those of you who don't know what margarotes are, it's a very, very complicated pest of the roots. It's called ground pearls. And so Andy sent a letter to the USDA to let us bring margarotes from Chile and test them against rootstocks, and of course they say no.
It was worse than that, actually.
It was worse than that, but we don't want to say that. So we thought about clonal propagation, but that was very scary. So that didn't work out well. So we dismissed that too. And I went to work with nematodes. And that was a lot of fun. And that picture over there, there's Jeff, and that's one of our trips to Pixley. 6 hours driving down, 15 minutes digging soil, 6 hours coming back with I don't know how many pounds of soil, and looking for Ciphynem at the time. And this is a picture of us graduating in 2002. That's Cecilia, for those of you who don't know her. So Karen asked me to talk about the influence of Andy in Chile. So now we're going back to Chile. This is in 2007. And here's another video. Rodrigo Velasquez was also a student here in the winemaking part of the dark side of the department. And he also wanted
Professor
to say,
Andy Walker, Rodrigo Velasquez, one of your Chilean students almost 20 years ago. I got the news that you are going to retire. So really would like to say thank you very much for all the knowledge that I got from you. And enjoy the next step in your life. Hope to see you sooner than later. And would like to tell you that good professors are the ones that drinks and enjoy wine, and you are one of the best ones. So really thank you, and see you next time.
Okay, good. So you could say that Andy has a lot of influence in Chile in terms of viticulture and rootstocks and using clean material. But I want to focus on what he's been doing for us in the last 10 or 15 years. And so when I went back to Chile in 2007, somebody started saying that Romano, which is a grapevine variety, was resistant to margarotes. Okay, so Romano is Vitis vinifera, and so I was very upset that somebody was saying that this would be resistant to something. It was just that it grew so much, it was so vigorous that it can outgrow margarotes. Okay, so one time I'm walking down the vineyard with Jimena Valich, who is another student. We're walking down the vineyard, and we found a plant of Romano. So I took my phone, took a picture of the leaf, sent it to Andy via an email, and of course, 5 nanoseconds later, I get an email back. It says, what is that? Send me another picture. Send me a picture of the cluster, the shoot tips and everything. And then 5 minutes later, he says, that's not Romano. That's Cesar Noir. And so this is an article that was in the news, in the newspaper in 2012, where Andy is rescuing Romano. Okay, and I like this paragraph from the article. I put it in English there, where it says that Andy is like a rock star. So he kept coming. So that was like the beginning of this whole project. He kept coming to work with Viña Santa Carolina, where I used to work before working at the nursery. I work at the nursery now. And with Jimena, Andy, and other people, he would come and walk vineyards like all day long. We would go to these very old vineyards looking for varieties, and he would be walking down saying, oh, this is Semillon, this is Trousseau, this is Cabernet Franc, this is Pais, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's that made a big impact for us. So those are pictures of Andy walking different vineyards. And all this work turned out to be what Viña Santa Carolina calls the bloque herencia, or the heritage block, okay? So we would come to these vineyards, and Andy would say, okay, this is that. I don't know what this is, but this is very interesting. So we would flag these vines, and then come back in the wintertime to take cuttings. Take the cuttings to see that they were virus-free, and then Andy said, you have to plant these clones, right, in the same place, and follow their growth, make wine out of it, et cetera, et cetera. So we convinced, at that time I was working with the winery, we convinced them to do that. And so we planted about 1 hectare of these selections. Right now there's like 120 selections, 40-something different varieties. It's really amazing. And this is all from all vineyards in Chile, okay? So Andy said, you have to make wine out of this. Okay, so we made wine, and the Merlot wine was awful. It was terrible, really terrible, awful. No color, no taste, awful. So Andy brought some samples back to Daniel, who was doing the DNA test? But all legal, okay, all legal. We brought the cuttings back, and they ran DNA, and so the Merlot was a different Merlot, okay? So, but the funny thing is that all these selections of Merlot come from different parts of Chile that are not close by, okay, and different growers. So we started thinking, well, maybe I was supposed to move that. There was something about this Merlot that was really bad, but there was something interesting. So we started studying, well, maybe all the Merlot from Chile comes from one place, and it was distributed around the country. So that was interesting. That was very nice. And that's Jimena, for those of you who don't know her, taking cuttings and planting his vineyard. She's really the mother of the mother block. And Andy convinced Jimena, I don't know how, to do the description of all the varieties, all these, I'm telling you, like 100 different clones, using the OIV standards, okay? So looking at the shape of the leaf and the teeth and the shoot tips and all that. And Jimena did all that. And in one of these trips, we're walking down a vineyard in San Clemente in Talca, so he probably doesn't remember this. But he found a vine and he said, this is Cabernet Sauvignon. And then he cuts the leaf, look on the other side, and it has hair. So he says, no, this can't be Cabernet Sauvignon. It's too hairy. No, this is Cabernet Sauvignon. No, this is not Cabernet Sauvignon. So he went like this for like 10 seconds. And he brought samples of that too, and it was Cabernet Sauvignon. And we also sent it to France with Jean-Michel Boursicot, and he confirmed that it was Cabernet Sauvignon, but it was a different clone of Cabernet Sauvignon. Actually, that clone makes very good wine, okay? I don't know if it's the hairs or not, but it makes very good wine, okay? So we have all this collection of material growing in the same place, and Jimena is keeping records for all the phenological stages, and I believe that the arrows are a little misplaced right now, but the important thing is that we had 18 Cabernet Sauvignons growing wine right next to each other, and you can see there's a 4-week difference in ripening within this clone. Okay, so all the grapes were picked at 23 bricks, so it's not the same day, but the same maturity, and you have 4 weeks difference. And how is that important? Because you can probably use this earlier Cabernet Sauvignon in cooler areas and this late Cabernet Sauvignon in warmer areas. So we are doing that. We're trying that. Then Andy convinced Jimena to put the same heritage block in a different location, and so we planted a second one, and she's following that one too. Of course, there's a lot of variation in terms of the wine that the clones make. We call them clones. I don't know if they're clones or not, but anyhow. So the vineyard, one of the vineyards where we got all the material that was owned by Santa Carolina was sold to build houses, okay? And Andy said, oh, you cannot lose this material. So he actually made Jimena move all these old vines from that old vineyard next to the winery. So they moved the vines in the wintertime when they were dormant. These are 70-year-old, 80-year-old vines. And they planted what they call the chacra. Chacra, it's a place where you have several different crops, okay? So it's a chacra centenario, because they were very old vines. And in the colors there, it's pictured the diversity within that block. So that's 1 hectare of vines that we brought. And Andy and Jean-Michel look at all the vines and identify one by one, okay? So I believe the green ones on top are the Romanos, sorry. But there's many different varieties in that block, okay? And that's important because we keep talking about, and I'm not against that, Peter, okay? But we keep talking about breeding new varieties and doing silencing some genes and doing this and that. And still we have a lot of diversity within our old varieties. And I think that's very important. And this is Jimena. She also sent a video.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Andy. This is Jimena Valitz from Chile. One complaint. It's not fair to talk about Andy just for 30 seconds. I will do my best. But I will start talking about how Andy influenced my professional life. He's one of the most amazing human beings that I have met. His wisdom and his generosity, sharing his knowledge with us, I think make a huge difference or impact in our professional lives. He taught us how to look at the tiny details and how those tiny details will make huge difference in viticulture.
Okay. She went on for like 2 minutes, so I had to cut it. So, Andy is also like the face of UC Davis, at least in the wine and viticulture area in Chile. He has done several seminars for us in Chile, so he's very respected there, and that's very important also. Okay, so that's another part of his influence in Chile for us. So back to nematodes. I remember one time we were in Santiago, in Melipilla, in that area, looking at a vineyard that was dying. It was Chardonnay planted on very close to the river, so very sandy soil, a lot of rocks. And Andy comes into the backhoe pit that we had there, and he was really amazed and very happy to see all the nematode damage. And the poor grower was looking like, what? But he said, this is like the record number of nematodes I've seen. And it's true. I mean, in Chile, we had, it's a big problem. We don't have phylloxera, but we have nematodes to share with everybody. And so I've been doing a lot of soil testing, looking for nematodes. And of course, it's full of nematodes. Not only root knot, but Syphinema and all the others that bring us to the GRNs. So I was lucky to be part of the last part of the research on the GRNs. And when I moved back to Chile and started working at the nursery, I told them we have to have these rootstocks because they're going to be a huge impact in Chile. So we took them to Chile and we planted about 20 acres of rootstock of mother vines. And Andy has come to help us work the details on how to propagate them and graft them and stuff like that. And this year we're actually shipping the first big lots of vines. I have to place
Andy has been key to the viticulture in Chile, particularly with the use of rootstocks, where we have a, relatively speaking, recent history. Each of Andy's visits have been filled with his knowledge, his charisma, and his classic trademark smile. So thanks, Andy. We hope to see you here many more times and enjoy your retirement. Cheers.
Okay, I'm going to go very fast. Okay. So you all know Andy, that he's a great professor, great extensionist, great breeder, excellent person. But we Walker Lab survivors know him in a different way, in different area. And he and his wife, Viv, they always open their house to us and especially for international students, that's very important. And I want to share some pictures with you. They at least twice a year we had a dinner and what was called the White Elephant party, where we exchange gifts. And you will see some people who already talked. There's Eric getting the famous dream catcher that moved from people to people, and that's Christine there, and that's Eric again. I don't know if you keep those, Eric. Do you still have those? No. And so for us, especially for us, for international students, this was a very important part of being there. There's Nancy also, and when Andy comes to Chile, he always sets up some time to spend time with us, and not only with my family, but with all his former students, and that's nice. And this is the gang that Andy was talking about, and my kids call Andy Uncle Andy, so that will tell you something. And this is the last video, and I'm gone.
Hello, I'm Felipe.
I'm Carolina.
We were discussing a good way to represent what Andy means to our country, to the viticultural sector of our country. And maybe a good way to put it would be to say that...
He's a rock star.
That's right, he's a rock star. Andy, cheers to you. Enjoy your retirement. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Okay, they tell me only one bottle of wine was damaged during the recording of this, but I'm not sure. So thank you very much, Andy.